Hi, so we're here with two American students from the University of Michigan. We're going to talk to us a little bit about cultural differences in education. I'm going to start off by having them just introduce themselves, so could you guys start by doing that?
Sure. My name is April LaCroix. I'm an MBA too, and I'm also an herb student, so I'll be graduating in 2012. I'm actually from Michigan. I'm from a city called Grand Rapids that's about 2 hours west of Ann Arbor.
My name is Matt Metter. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I lived for several years in San Diego, California, and I moved here for graduate school, and been loving it the whole time.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to ask Matt and April a couple of questions just on their perspective on being a part of an academic institution that has such a culturally diverse set of students. So I'm going to kick it off by just saying that Michigan is extremely culturally diverse, with students and faculties who are of different sexes, different races, different sexual orientations, and different nationalities. So Matt and April, what would you say are one or two of the advantages for you of being a part of a community that's so culturally rich?
Well, in a lot of our business classes, we've gotten to learn a lot from the people from diverse cultures, whether it be Southeast Asia or Europe or South America, Latin America. And that was something extremely valuable to me in particular because although I have a lot of experience, I don't have experience working in those countries. And so I was able to learn quite a bit about international business practices and how they differ from the States. So it was definitely valuable from that perspective.
I think too, not just looking at business, but learning about those countries as a whole, and learning about the culture, the language, the food, the customs. Instead of, there's so many different countries represented here at Ross, and there's no way, I would have the time or could afford to travel to all of them. So it's just really great that you can get all of that right here in one place. And lots of the international clubs will host different events, highlighting maybe different holidays that they celebrate or different kinds of foods and things like that. And it's great that, I can participate in that right at the business school.
And just like at dinner parties with our friends, our international friends, they love to make us, foods from their home country, and it's delicious and really fun. We just have a lot of great time sharing that together.
All right, Matt, point well taken. I'll make you some training food this year. So I guess the second question will be, what are some of the challenges that you've observed facing international students when it comes to some of those differences that may exist between their educational system and the educational system here in America?
So one thing is that, and this is challenging for me too, but the work here is all group work, and that's not something that I necessarily did as much in my previous education, and I know that several of the international students have mentioned that. That's a little bit different. So we do a lot of group work, group papers, and coordinating, I think, with your group is really important, communicating early and often, and making sure that, if you have experience in a certain area, that you bring that up and you can share that with your group.
So April, do you have any tips that you might give to international students as they think of group work in this context? Some of the things that you might think they would want to do to ensure they have their best foot forward?
Sure. I think the first thing to keep in mind is to not be embarrassed or feel insecure or feel like held back, especially if you don't think your English is 100%. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, to ask a question if you don't understand something, because there's a good chance that somebody else doesn't understand it as well. I'd also, kind of along that vein, I would encourage erring on the side of communicating more instead of communicating less, and speaking up in the group setting, because especially in business school, students can be very opinionated and very willing to voice their opinions quickly, and we still want to hear the international perspective, but you can't expect people to draw it out of you. You have to be willing to volunteer yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One thing that a team member did that I thought was particularly helpful was they were an international student, and they had a lot of good perspectives on the problem we were working on in operations, but their English wasn't quite as strong as the native speakers in our group. So they brought their part of the work early to us, and they had a ton of great work in there, but we just helped them refine some of the English, and that helped the team out in general. So.
That makes sense. So what are, just to end it off, if you could tell us a few of the things that you feel like you've learned from any internationals here at UMich, whether it be, from your group work or just a couple of your friends that are international, any cool things that you feel like you've learned?
Sure. Well, Matt and I had a really great opportunity, along with Lizelle, to travel to the Philippines as part of our MTrek. And an international student was from the Philippines, Aileen, so she had the idea to lead the MTrek. And that was just a wonderful, wonderful experience, traveling, by boat among these islands and exploring uninhabited islands, looking at the stars, snorkeling, and then along the way learning a lot about the Philippine culture. We stayed on one island that had a small village, and the village welcomed us with open arms, and we got to see more about how they live and their livelihoods.
That was a lot of fun. We also went to a Shabbat dinner with hosted by the Ross Jewish Student Association, and got to learn a lot about their culture and their traditions, and just sharing that with some of our friends from Israel and some of our students from across the world. It was really, really a lot of fun. So.
Okay, cool. So to end off, would you guys want to just give a little welcome to our international students, and just anything you want to say to welcome them?
Welcome.
We love international students.
Yeah.
We're very, very glad that you're at Ross, and we hope that you have a great experience. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask somebody.
All right. Thank you guys so much.